We're back here. This is Mountain Outpost. We're at the Javelina Jundred, presented by Hoka and The Feed. Chris Warden.
Andy Jones-Wilkins.
And not every interview we're going to have is going to be with the people who are expecting to finish in the 14, 15-hour range. And these are a couple of people that I wanted to bring on and talk to because, first of all, they're awesome people. I have talked with them ever since, since they started coming here about 7-8 years ago. Yeah. And I've gotten to know them, and frankly, they've taken care of me at other races as well. But I wanted to recognize them and have them talk about their story and their journey here to Javelina. This is Dave and Juliet York. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. It's nice that you have Race and Last people on here.
Well, no, we want to recognize everybody. Of course, the two of you are going to be running the 100K together here at Javelina 100. This isn't the first time that you're going to be doing it. You did it last year, but I wanted you to come on with us here and talk about the story that brought you here to the Javelina 100 and what this race means to you.
Should I go? Or okay, so it kind of goes back. I used to be obese, and I needed a cane to walk around. And within a few days, about 5 of my family members were all diagnosed with cancer. And I walked down the stairs, I looked at my wife, and I said, this ends today. This ends today. Juliet has her black sash in Kung Fu, and her master is a friend of mine. And he'd always challenged me to be better. So the next day I went out there and ran 1 mile. And so I ran 1 mile a day for 101 days. And it was that, wow, I did it. And some of those days were awful. I got shin splints, and, it must have been the shoes because it couldn't have been me, and but yeah, after that, it's just, okay, somebody told me that Disney had races. And, so I signed up for that. And then it just became this, wow, I did that. Well, what else can you do? If I can do that, what else could you do? And I found myself at Noble Canyon, which is absolutely demonic, if anybody's been out there. And I came down with probably 6 minutes to spare. And two people in an aid station, I didn't know who they were. Were instrumental in getting me out of that last aid station. One of them gave me an otter pop, which I swear was made out of like unicorn tears or something, because that sucker got me just moving. And I went down, I got a mantra going in my head, and hooked up with another gal, Jenny Henderson, who's another fantastic runner. Didn't know who she was, but I came in with her. And I mean, Juliet met me with about a mile to go, and I looked at her, and she was going to go test for a black belt in New York a couple days later, and I'm like, honey, this is what's going to have to take. You're going to have to empty your tank. And that was the beginning of it all. And then I come to find out later on, the two people at the aid station that helped me out, one's name was Angela Chartel, and the other one was Scotty Mills. So I definitely had angel wings, over the top of us. So.
There are many dotted across the country, many incredible trail and ultra running communities. Yes. And I've had an opportunity to be kind of dipped into quite a few of them, but San Diego's a little extra special.
Thanks.
And I think you probably experienced that.
I did.
Whether it's the Scotties and the Anges, who are sort of really driving forces behind some of the big events, or the countless volunteers that show up at every race, right, that do the trail work, that manage the very challenging, like, Southern California permitting situation in a lot of those places. I mean, it is... We throw community around a lot in trail and ultra running, but that's community with a capital C.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And you experienced that as you were kind of coming out. So how'd you find? I mean, we have community with a capital C out here in the desert too. How did you find us, Juliet?
Go ahead. Yeah.
How did you find the running Air Viper races and running in the desert? And
I think it's the draw of Javelina. To me, it was the draw of fun. I want to come out and have fun. So Dave had done the 100K.
I'd done Cuyamaca a couple weeks before. Came and did this one, and Juliet came with me, and that's. And
I did the Jackass. So I did the first Jackass. Had an absolute blast. It was a crazy year, first year. A lot happened at Jackass that I swore I would keep it jackass at the 8th station.
Oh, I was the 8th
You
station
were the
captain
8th
out
station
there,
captain.
so I know exactly
Yes,
what
it
you're
was
talking about.
nuts.
That was before the ship was righted, correct?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
A lawless land. We do not talk about it great length.
She was
Correct.
kicked out of Jackass Aid Station.
She wasn't the only one.
I got escorted out, but it was great, and just having that opportunity. And thank you, Aravaipa, for that opportunity to do one lap, because I could not do a loop. I couldn't at that time do 3 loops. I couldn't even fathom doing 5 loops. So to have that opportunity to do 1 loop was incredible.
Yeah. And Javelina does have a draw simply by virtue of what it is and how incredibly unique it is. You know,
Yes.
and I will say, because I chatted with the race founder, Jerry Kilgariff, who founded the race 22 years ago, and while it has exploded to this, as it was just a little up in the Pemberton parking lot, 6.5 loops, the goal then, have fun, bunch of friends in the desert, costumes around Halloween, funny awards. Even though it's exploded in growth, all of that is still alive and well here, and it attracts people like yourself and people literally from all over the country and the world. So, what are your goals for tomorrow?
Go ahead.
One is don't die. Second one is don't have to use a comb.
For those that are not familiar, all right, I'll give a little bit of, I'll give the flavor text on that. So we always advise runners to carry a comb, and some of them are a little bit quizzical about that. The reason why you carry a comb is because the cholla cactus don't play. Like, these are the, quote, jumping cactus, and what happens is, like, if you find one on your leg, you do not try and flick it off. You don't try and, like, quickly, like, almost touch it, because it will then now, like, embed itself in your hand. And then you try and pick it out with one hand, and all of a sudden you've got it on the other hand. And before you know it, you are covered in cactus. And it's, like, obviously, like, everybody has now at this point seen the picture of Tara Dower,
Yes.
like, from last year's Javelina. That's an extreme situation. However, you don't have to be in an extreme situation to find yourself miserable, because once the cholla gets itself gets a hold of you, it is all of a sudden becoming a puzzle to try and get rid of. And a comb is the least resistant, or least difficult way to get rid of at least the major problem you're facing. Because if you try and get rid of it another way, you're going to have it all over. So it happens very quickly.
Try not to use a comb.
Yep, don't die, don't use a comb, and finish.
Yeah, I think we just
finish.
It doesn't even matter if our time's worse. Last year there was some hardship, so I didn't want a repeat of that. But I mean, Juliet's circumstance was really kind of special last year.
Yeah.
So,
and Juliet, like, I guess as much as you're comfortable with talking about it, can you talk about your journey here at Javelina and what this race means to you from a personal standpoint?
Sure. Thank you. My dad is an amazing person. He's a swimmer, and he set actually world records. He's done
Open water style,
open
right?
water swimming.
And
He's
pool.
done
okay.
and pool records. He's done. He swam underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. He swam around Alcatraz, and then for his 50th birthday, he swam Lanai to Maui. 60th birthday, he swam Lanai to Maui, and at age 65, he was diagnosed with gallbladder cancer, so a very, very rare form of gallbladder cancer. They took out his gallbladder. He was fine. Then he was a year later diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So he decided to fight it. The doctor told him, he said, you have about a 1 in a million chance of surviving. And my dad said, well, someone has to be that one. So he chose to be that one, and he kept fighting. And so he really wanted to do the Lanai to Maui swim again at age 70. And so he trained, he got better. He became type 1 diabetic because of the surgeries that he had. He went through chemo. He got down to 138 pounds, and he was 6'4".
Oh, wow.
So he really built himself back up. And he did it. At age 70, he finished. Dave was crewing him on the boat, and my dad did it. So one thing that I've really taken away from him that helps is he looks at it and he said, I can't swim 10 miles. I just can't do it. He said, but I know I can swim 10 minutes. So he tricks his mind and says, okay, I'm just going to swim 10 minutes. I know I can do it. And then he'd swim another 10 minutes, then another 10 minutes, and then by the time he knew it, he was already at that finish line. So that's really what I take away from him. A lot of this is because, as ultra runners, you go through dips and valleys and ups and downs, and you have really good times and then really low points. And the one thing I keep going is, okay, I can run for 10 more minutes. I know I can. Just keep moving forward, and that keeps me going.
Fantastic. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What a great story.
Of course, the two of you, obviously I met you here at Javelina, but I've also seen you elsewhere on the trails, and the two of you are very involved in the San Diego scene, as we alluded to earlier. You two are aid station captains for a couple of big races out in San Diego. Can you talk about what you do out there?
So I decided I wanted to open a tiki bar, and then they offered me an aid station. So I figured the best thing I could do was combine the two. And so we have a pop-up tiki bar. We originally put it Lake Cuyamaca at the San Diego 100. The course has since changed. We're now at Sweetwater Aid Station, which is now a major hub. And we also have one at Paso Picacho Campground coming off of Cuyamaca Peak. So both those spots, we have a lot of carnage. And if you're familiar with the tiki culture at all, there is a cocktail called the Suffering Bastard. And so that became our little logo, for our aid station. And it's an awesome way. The people we told you about that took us under our wing told you, you have a choice at these races. You can run them, you can be the race director, or you can volunteer. Those are your three options at every race. So we really wanted to give back to the community because I look back, I really didn't like the person I was, that long ago. And this community really gave me a new look on life. And I mean, much deeper conversation, but exposing yourself to suffering really creates a new and genuine person within you. I like that new baptism. It really, coming out here to the desert, no man crosses the desert without meeting his creator. It's just it's not possible. And being able to give back to others and hopefully that they will continue on with that is really that's our, regenerative culture out here.
Yeah. Let me ask about, kind of specifically tomorrow. You're obviously committed to running the event together.
Yes.
Right? And
we are committed together.
I hope so.
Yeah. but actually starting together and finishing together, right?
That's the goal.
And along with finish and no comb and have fun and all that. So I imagine along the road, along that trail, there's one might have a not so good patch, and then the other might have a not so good patch. Is that a little bit part of the give and take when you run it together? And then part two is, do you have a crew back here when you come through each time to whom you might be able to, lean on and talk a little bit to, and so that it's more than just the two of you?
I think that I learned a big lesson last year, and it was my first 100K, and I came out here to honor my dad. My dad had passed away actually on my 50th birthday last May, and so I came here just to honor him and said, okay, Dad, you've done what you could do. Now I'm going to take that and continue it. And I became a person out in the desert that I didn't like. My spirit was really dark, and I just did not. It didn't work for me. I was kind of very, very angry, very depressed. And one thing I looked at is for Dave to pick me up. Why aren't you picking me up? Come on, we're a team here, just like you said. We're going to help each other out. And he didn't. And I have to say that I learned so much about myself through that I'm almost. I'm grateful that he didn't pick me up, because I learned that that's the person I don't want to be. And so that's why I signed up again on January 1st, hashtag drunk sign up for Javelina.
Ultra
sign up.
So much money on January 1st.
Exactly.
It's insane.
And
they can
that,
shut down the business after January 1st.
Exactly. and that's really why I'm here, is to be that person, or not to be that person again, to be a different person. So that's really why I'm here. And
crew, so do you have family and friends out there? Who are you going to see after every loop?
Good question. So we have a lot of friends that like to come out here for the Javelina culture. So I'm not entirely certain where they will be when we come in. So
Got it.
You know, we'll be taking care of ourselves, and we'll be grateful for anyone else that helps us out.
One more question, and actually, we've never really talked about this, but you two coming from San Diego, so there's a limited bit of RV space here that people have to set up, and you two are among the lucky, proud chosen few who actually have your RV set up here. How different is it now that you're like doing the RV thing, like versus like what everybody else has got going on? I mean, you like I saw you guys sitting out in your chairs, lounged out in front of your RV this morning having coffee, and I was like, oh, that's living right there. Yeah. You know, how much fun is it to be out there and like maybe have that perspective?
I think we love it. It really creates the culture here. We stayed in a hotel a couple years ago, and hotel's great, but you're coming and going and you're not really living it. And so when you're here in your RV, you hear it, you know, you get to hear the music, you get to hear people walking, you get to hear the carts being drawn by. It kind of immerses you in it, and you feel part of it.
Look, you know, Javelina is Burning Man meets NASCAR.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, you know, being in an RV and being in a tent's fine too, but, you know, having a little bit more of a home to go back to is obviously nice. But, yeah, it's like those generators spark up and you're like, it's on.
Game time. Game time.
Because I do have to admit, in the interest of full disclosure, we do have a trailer here ourselves. And I'll tell you what, that thing is a game changer because... Yeah. The ability to like go in between interviews, go in there for a couple moments and just stand under the fan and get that nice little bit of cool air that is artificially generated. I'm not gonna lie, it's a total game changer being out here, even as a broadcaster. Yeah. So, Dave, Juliet, I wanted so badly to have you two come in here and talk about your story and about your journey. Best of luck to you tomorrow, and thank you so much for joining us here. I really appreciate it.
And
thank you very much.
If you're feeling
thank you.
enough, come back on Sunday morning. We'd love to
tell us how it all went.
Tell us how it all went.
Okay. Flag us down because we'll probably be a little wobbly.
We'll flag
Yes.
We'll flag you.
Dave, Juliet,
Thank you so
York,
much.
joining us here on the Javelina Jundred interview show presented by Hoka and the Feed. We'll be back in just a little bit with our next interview on Mountain Outpost.